chapter 10 in the Tanya. So today we're going to talk about the analogy of light, which is used by the Kabbalists to describe the spheros, is merely for the sake of our comprehension, but it's not entirely, what you call God's energy isn't limited just to light, and limited to be in the by the definition light. Because we tried to explain in the last chapter. We didn't do it fully because I think we pointed out how any of the attributes of God are, you can't say God is like made up of attributes because that would be parts. And we're trying to give God a more simple oneness, like intrinsic oneness, and to do that, we had to reconcile. You have 10 sirot, yet there's intrinsic oneness. So, step one is God transcends all things, but to some degree he manifests in the sirot. It's a manifestation of God. And it's okay if we don't really understand how these things could be total oneness with God, because the same way we understand that we call God wise. It's a different ballpark of wise. It's not like a lot more of our wise. It's like wise on a whole different level. So we say God's like the source of being wise. We call him the wisest, but it's not like he's wise, because that's like putting too much of a, to our definitions. Okay. But we're going to try to understand today So we said you can't really understand the sfirot at this and the way God relates to them. However, we do speak about them, and we do give language to God and sfirot. The faith is that we understand the great chasm between we're talking about wise, the wise one, the compassionate one, and when God's that is on an infinite level is a different ballpark. That's the faith of like, yeah, God's wise, but it's not like me times a million. It's like it's a different type of intelligence entirely, from which my intelligence comes from, among other intelligences. In other words, just to start, we said the chapter, we have permission to use the realm of metaphor and employ certain words to describe the dynamic between aspects of the divine as we conceive them through our worldly lens. So our worldly lens is limited, but we're allowed to use it as metaphor with the faith that it's in a whole different ballpark we can't really truly understand. We end up grasping something of the divine because we believe that our conception truly does share some correlation. So even though we have finite intelligence and God is infinite intelligence, it's a different ballpark, there is some sort of correlation. So that's why Kabbalah employs the mechanism of the 10 sfirot, which I think I told a few times, reflects the human being's inner world, the creative process from idea to action. There's the thinking about the idea, there's the processing in your mind, and there's the motivation being drawn in the heart to go, push it forward till you actually go do it. And that mirrors the 10 sfirot is God's cosmic creative energies. Our 10, we don't have sfirot in us. We have 10 kochot. We have 10 these like human powers that on some small level parallel the cosmic 10 traits of God. What do you call them? Attributes. Okay. So we go. Nevertheless, page 65 in the Chayinu. Despite the fact that Sfirot transcend our intellect and comprehension, since the Torah speaks as in the language of man, in order to modulate for the ear what it is able to hear, but the Torah speaks in our language. So therefore, permission was granted to the Kabbalists to speak allegorically of the Sfirot. The Rebbe notes, when we say allegory, a parable, right? An allegory and parable is the same thing. So when you give a parable, let's say the tortoise and the hare, right? Is like, are the two people you're trying to tell this lesson to, is one a tortoise and one a hare? No, they're people. But you, through the parable, you explain the importance of slow but steady over fast and unreliable or erratic. So what you're really doing is you're extrapolating the relationship between a tortoise and a hare and saying, let's take that relationship on a different level in the human realm. Okay? I mean, in other words, the particulars do not share any real similarity. I'll close the door, maybe. Sorry, make it up. They don't really share. The details are very different. The relationship between the details can be carried over to the lesson. For example, another example, the sun's rays and the sun do not compare at all to the Sfirot. We kept on saying that the Sfirot are like the ray of sun inside the sun orb, in the globe of the sun. The Sfirot are not yellow, whatever, aren't just light, whatever you call them. It's a different type of spiritual, more essential energy. So it's not a sun and light, but it was we taught the lesson that just like the rays of the sun, while they're subsumed in the orb of the sun, they must be there, but they're subsumed, so they have no independence. So too, the Sfirot are God's, let's say, some particulars, attributes, but since they're subsumed in one with Him, they're not separate. But that's really where the similarity ends, just in the relationship between the parts of the allegory. So the Kabbalists, that's why they call the Sfirot, they call them lights. Lights, Sfirot. Why do they call them lights? So that by means of this metaphor, the nature of the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His attributes will be some understood by us. By way of illustration, like the unity of the sunlight that's within the solar globe, with the solar globe itself, which is called not only sun, but also called luminary. Right? The source of light is called the luminary. As it's written, God created the greater luminary, the very source of light. The radiation, the beam, which is not the luminary, that's the extension, the beams of the sun beams, which spread forth and shine, is called light. As it's written, and God called the light day. When the light is within its source in the orb of the sun, it is united with it in absolute unity. For there, within the sun, there's only one entity, namely the body of the luminary, which emits light. For there, the radiation and light is absolutely one being with the body of the luminary, which illuminates. And all the rays have no independent existence by itself at all. Precisely in this manner, and even more so, it is unity on one hand, the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His will and wisdom in the world of Atzilut, with, on the other hand, His essence of being, as it were, who become clothed in them, and the Sirot of Atzilin unites them with perfect unity, since they derived and emanated from him, just as by way of analogy, light is diffused from the sun. However, God's unity with his attribute. Okay, so in other words, in the highest world, there's the 10 Sfirot. He's this pre-physical world, pre-our world, but it's already where there's like these Hashem and his tool belt, his attributes of kindness and flow and all that. It's all there, but it's all one with him. It's not separate. It's all because we want it to be one with him. So we learn that from the analogy to the ray of sun inside the orb of the sun, the globe of the sun. However, here's where it breaks down. God's unity with his attributes is not exactly in this manner, but in a manner which is remote and concealed from our comprehension. But in a manner which is remote and concealed from our comprehension. For his ways are higher than our ways. Nevertheless, despite its superior manner of unity, since one must modulate for the ear what is able to hear, we can perceive and comprehend that just as in the analogy, the light of the sun, which is united with and nullified its source, has no name of its own, only the name of its source. So now these ones must modulate for the ear. We can perceive and comprehend that just as in the analogy, the light of the sun, which is united with and nullified in its source, has no name of its own, only the name of its source. So to all the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be Him, as well as wisdom, are not designated and called by these names at all, relative to Him, but only in relation to the creatures which are below the world of Atzilut. Again. It's only in regard to us, the higher and lower creatures, that we feel those 10 sefirot, that the energies that create, which are brought into existence and given life and guided in their conduct by the Holy and Blessed be. The next page, we're finishing up through his will and wisdom and understanding and knowledge, which garbage himself and his holy motive attributes, meaning all the 10 sefirot make all the stuff in this universe. So we feel that they're very real. Those energies, God's kind, he's compassionate, he's giving, he's delineating, he's all these things. As it stated in the Midrash, by means of 10 things, and we see this is not Kabbalah only, this is hinted to in the Mishnah, in Pirkei Avot, with 10 words or things was the world created. Chachma, Tfuna, Das. Yeah. As it's written, God founded the earth with wisdom. He established the heavens with understanding. With his knowledge, the depths of the abyss were burst open. As expressed by Elijah, you have brought forth 10 garments, and we call them 10 sefirot, through which to direct hidden worlds unrevealed and worlds revealed. And through them, you conceal yourself. Okay. So, just to summarize, we do talk about, by way of metaphor, Kabbalah talks about God and God's energy and rays of light. And we take a metaphor to appreciate it, but understanding that the metaphors are just metaphors. They explain a little bit and maybe the relationship between things, but they're not exactly the same thing. Of course, God's light, if you want to call it that, is on a different wavelength than we call any type of light.